Okay, I believe we're live. This is Masculine Geek number 152, Fireside Chats. Originally going to be a D&D game, but had some scheduling issues. We're going to reschedule that for next Wednesday, which I think is January 5th. So we'll be running in Rollo's campaign, the continuation, because I know we left on a cliffhanger, which we're probably going to get our asses kicked. So it should be an interesting D&D game for sure. And we've some of the party are not with us.
Hey,
because they're all fucking around with magic and wandering the halls of the outpost away from the rest of the comrades. We're not going to name any names, but whose initials are Amos.
Who's not doing too well in the other game either.
No, I think he's.
I
Like
am in
hanging by a
trouble in 2
thread.
campaigns. Like
You are. You're dumpster fire in both of the campaigns. Oh, so TJ was telling us about some internet issues he was having, just the bullshit of the internet lately.
Yeah, the Matrix is not being kind to TJ.
Well, I mean, this is just the complications of the internet. Just to give kind of a background, when I first started using the internet, really primarily when I was in college, you got in, you signed in to your email account, and then you could sign up for all these different accounts using your email. And you really didn't have to do a whole lot other than that. Now, you got to have a VPN because this was before social media was really big. I mean, Facebook was still pretty much just for interacting with people in your college. Like this was still back when you couldn't be on Facebook unless you had a college email address. And so now it's getting to the point where I have, and it's also because I have a lot of security precautions of my own. So I've got the VPN, which means that every single time I try to log into anything, I have to verify it through a 2-step verification process. And in a lot of ways, I haven't had to suffer from a lot of problems that other people have, where their stuff's getting stolen or something bad's happening. On the other hand, it's very difficult to just do basic stuff that really and then what happened with Facebook is I have an author page that they said, you can't post anything anymore until you give us your government ID and your physical address, because, you have the potential for influencing elections or some nonsense like that. And I contacted them and said, what are you talking about? It's an author page. I've never run an ad here. They don't respond. Then I go to delete the author page because I'm just sick of the crap, and they won't let me access the general settings page that you need to access to click delete page. So I reached out to them about that. They ignore me. I then say, I'm going to get legal counsel if you guys don't respond. No response. It's just shit. Like, yeah. So I'm like, a part of me is
one thing after another.
Well, it's just, yeah, exactly. I'm like, guys, this is complete garbage. That, and then when I'm trying to buy something off Amazon, I got to go through 2 different email accounts before I can actually access my account. Now that's if I'm using the VPN. But, I just did my last podcast for my own personal one that people can find on my website. But one of the things that I'm becoming increasingly disillusioned with is the internet. It's becoming incredibly bureaucratized. And I don't know. It's not the internet that I was once on years ago. It's becoming. Do you guys remember that scene from Ready Player One where the main guy, the villain, is talking about how they want to get control over the Oasis so that they can start doing advertising on people's face, like their visuals. And he's saying, "Oh, we can put up to 80% of their visual face with ads before inducing a seizure." Like that was his goal, was just to see how much ads you could push on someone before they have a seizure. I kind of feel like that's what that's what the internet has become. It's just one big giant billboard that's being shoved down our face. So,
oh yeah,
over. And that's all I have to say about that.
No, but that's ridiculous that you can't access your own author's page.
Yeah, that's why I use one email for both my purchasing and my author page stuff, my actual uploading of.
Well, the crazy one is, and this was probably my fault. I never changed my Facebook email address from my college days. So, then I went and tried to access my college email address, and I think that got deactivated by the school because it's, how many years old. So I had to immediately change my email address with Facebook. But the problem is that address was also the backup address for the email I use for my Amazon account. So I couldn't access it to get a one-time verification code so that I could log into my Amazon email address so that I could confirm the verification to get into Amazon. I mean, this is the stuff I'm talking about. It's just like, good Lord, people.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
It's funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine, longtime buddy, where he does a lot of stuff online, and that's part of his, I guess, branding, or part of his business model. And we were just talking about all the different problems of the internet today and what it's been doing and how it's strayed from, the way it used to be back in the day. And he said, wouldn't it be great if the internet just ceased to exist, like just stopped working one day? Now it obviously creates some problems, but I think his sentiment was, it's like, can we all get in a time machine and go back? And the answer is, of course, no, we can't. So the question is, what do we do moving forward? I was also watching some documentary. I can't remember the name of it, but it had to do with social media and how they have all these algorithms that are used to manipulate you and are tracking everything you do. And, everything's being designed. For example, they brought up how the Facebook feed and the Twitter feed are all based off of the slot machines from a casino.
Yeah.
And so it creates this addiction thing where you're constantly scrolling to see if there's something new, because there's potential, the illusion of infinity and stuff like that. And that just didn't exist when Twitter came out in 2008 or 9 or 7, whatever it was. And that's not what Facebook was about back in the day. And that's not what even MySpace was. Like, it's just, stuff has become such a cynical marketing and advertising scheme. The other thing I got a huge problem with, and one of the reasons I was telling you guys before we went live, is like, I'm really shifting away from using credit cards, is because I'm pretty sure they're selling information to all these different big tech companies.
I don't doubt that at all.
They are doing. If you read the fine print on your credit card thing, yeah.
Okay, so that's the problem I have back when I was working at a grocery store in high school to pay for college. We would have people sign up for the grocery chain's membership, so that you can get the discounts. It feels incredibly dishonest or deceitful to not explain to people, the average person, hey, you're going to sign up for this card. You're going to get all of our discounts. In exchange, we get to sell your purchase data without making it anonymous. So someone can buy your data and know what you've purchased. How many people would actually buy or sign up for the membership? And when people say you need to read the fine print, I think the problem with that is, imagine you had to read the fine print for every single thing in life. And imagine if, you were signing an employee contract or some sort of tenant contract, and they wrote in, and I also get to eat your firstborn child, and you happen to not see it as you signed it. Like, it skipped over. Like, what's that term where it says, like, that legal term? I'm sure Chesty would know this, but the term to describe where a court rules a contract invalid because one of the provisions is so irrational that no reasonable person would ever agree to it if they knew it was there. I can't remember what the legal term is, but that's kind of how I feel about a lot of these things, where they say, oh, well, if you read the fine print, at a certain point, the fine print there's certain things that it doesn't matter if it says in the fine print. No reasonable person would have agreed to this stuff if they had known what was going to happen. And so that's where, if I was in charge of making laws, and I know we don't need any more laws in this country, but if I was going to do a law, I would say people have to explain this stuff. If you're going to sell user data, you have to have that up front and very explicit, saying, by saying this, you are agreeing to let us sell your data. None of this legalese nonsense where they come in and they use all this very clever language. They can include the fine print, but they need to say in plain speak, we are going to sell your data, and it is not going to be anonymous. It's going to be revealing who you are and all this other stuff.
Competent man has it right. An unconscionable contract.
Yes, that's what I consider all this, like, personal data sales. I consider it
living up to your name.
Yes, I consider it to be an incomparable contract that they had a lot of people sign, because, and then
competent man is the new Atham. Look that up.
Well, the other thing that really bothers me is their ability to change their terms of service and retroactively apply it to you, like saying by continuing to use our services and products. This is kind of like a taxi cab driver driving you somewhere and then stopping in the middle of the road and saying, "Oh, I'm changing my fare from $1 a mile to $20 a mile," or something like that. And you're in a place where it's just not practical for you to get out of the taxi and go find another one because there's not another one for 5 or 6, 7 miles. Like something like that, where they change the terms of service at a point where you are not in a position to be able to, you're still using the service. In any kind of like land use zoning, they acknowledge that, which is why they have grandfather clauses, so that it doesn't apply to people who are already there. It only applies to people who are who are using the service for the first time. I think that should totally be illegal. Like was it passive consent stuff? In what other area of life does this apply?
That's a good question. I always think back to when we didn't have the internet and everyone's address was in the phone book, and you had to actually call up the phone, your local phone company, and say, "Here's extra money. I don't want to be in it. Do not list my address." It's a very similar concept. It's like if you're not going to say something and there's no law for it, a company that wants to make money is going to use it. It's just the way it is.
Right. And now I think the difference with all the stuff that used to be manual or used to be physical is I just don't see it as necessary. Like back in the day, if you wanted to go see what someone's house looked like, you had to go physically drive to the address. You couldn't just type it in on Google and then Google Maps would immediately show you what their house looked like. And I understand a lot of people will say, well, this is public knowledge, this is public information. And okay, great. I mean, people can say that stuff used to be done back in the day. The information may have been there, but the speed and the accessibility has changed.
Everything has changed with the internet, even down to like copyright law. It's it's unbelievable. There's nothing. The copyright laws are being formed now over certain things because all this is new. This has never been done before. These past decades with the internet and things, being online and all your shit online, things that you create online. Right. At what point is it a copyright infringement? And if you don't have the money, how are you going to enforce it?
Have you guys heard of Web3?
No, what's that?
So there's 3 phases. So far we're in the second phase of the web as we know it. Right. Web 1 was basically the internet in the 90s and early 2000s. Basically, it's a lot of infrastructure building, a lot of background stuff, a lot of indexing, like Google, Facebook, MySpace, social media as we know today formed what is known as Web 2, which is very centralized around basically what we call big tech or big data.
Yeah.
A lot of the accessibility that we have right now is thanks to these companies, and it's formed the infrastructure thanks to the efforts of Web 1 to form Web 2. But now with the concerns of Web 2, with too few people owning too much information is just out there, it's sold, it's bought and sold, passed around all over the place, that just a conversation we have here is data that's being collected, gathered on us to form a profile, to sell stuff to us, to market to us, to tell people how to get to us. Web 3 is taking concepts of the blockchain to take that power and try to give it back to us. That's where you have that's kind of how the blockchain was leading towards. That's where we're having I know there's some people that have, concerns, or they think NFTs. If you guys know what those are.
Oh, yeah.
They think those are a big scam and all that, but the concept behind it, the technology behind it is meant to give ownership of property, of copyright back to people. So my data or my name, my picture, my likeness can't just be easily thrown around. If I say something, someone has to let me know if they, hey, can we use it? Can we pay you to use it? they're moving towards that. There's people working towards that, but it's a concept that came around. I'm just looking at. I heard about it in the last few months, and as they said, yeah, it came about when blockchain technology started coming around. When Ethereum took off, they started talking about it, how like giving the internet back to the everyday person, kind of balancing it out so that big tech doesn't own it all. Now they have to start, essentially, if we're really the resource, then we should
have to get paid. We get paid for our data, basically.
Because the NFT was designed to basically do that. If I create this artwork, it's not just going to get copy pasted throughout the world as just data. I should have something of it that I get credited for it. Yeah, Same way is going to go with data.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where things need to go, where people own their data. And if somebody wants, one of the issues that we're dealing with the internet is that all these institutions were started that were, in a way, and people can go into the conspiracy stuff and say, well, that was their intent all along. Okay, let's put all that aside for a second. Let's deal with what actually was that we know for sure. Facebook, Twitter, Google, all this other stuff used to be when people like myself and others like you guys probably signed up for this stuff years ago. It was not what it was now, and it changed. And we were not, and people can say, well, you agreed to all these different changes. How do I put this? We were not given control over our data, meaning this is something where there was no advocate for us in all this stuff going on. This was stuff going on with big tech, with social media, and ordinary people did not understand what was going on. They did not have, this was like, someone trying, this is why people are guaranteed by law a defense attorney when they're charged with a crime, right? If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you, because it acknowledges the idea that the average person cannot possibly defend themselves adequately.
$2 from Red, thanks. Also, here's lunch money, nerds. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good to see you in the chat.
Yeah, this is why there was no advocacy for the consumer or for the people on there, because we were seen as the product, but we weren't given a choice or we weren't in a position of power to say, hey, this is our data. If you're going to use it, we get a cut of the action, or we get to negotiate over this stuff. So I have no idea what that looks like, but unfortunately, this is the other problem, is that young kids growing up today, the concept of anonymity and privacy is going to be gone. Mm-hmm. That they won't understand in any way what that means. They're also not going to see themselves as being in a position where, hey, my data is valuable. What are you giving me for it? And I'm sure that all the entertainment stuff that they get in the world is what they pay for, but that's more of a passive way of doing it, as opposed to a company that says, hey, where you can almost like, I'll give an example. So let's say there's a company that says, hey, sign up. If you don't give us any money, it's free with very limited features. However, if you allow us to sell your data on certain things, and you get to control what data you feel comfortable with us selling, you get other certain features. If you just let us sell whatever data of yours that we want, you get access to everything. So people get to proactively choose how much of their data they want sold, and whether they want, and how that balances out. So they're not just going with the flow and allowing things to happen. I think that that's almost a system or setup where it needs to be more in that line, as opposed to this one where you really have to be a nerd and want to go read through 1,000-page terms of service and go translate this stuff in a legalese translator to understand what exactly it is they're saying.
I mean, you want to consider the fact, though, like, this is kind of like what happened with the Industrial Revolution. Very quickly, a small handful of oil and steel and everything all went to a small group of people and a lot of people like to say, well, Carnegie and Rockefeller and these guys, they just became so rich because of capitalism. No, actually they did, because of they actually had a lot of people in their back pocket, in the government. And then people started standing against that, breaking apart these companies so that it wasn't this huge monopoly. I think the same thing is kind of happening now, where you're seeing the big tech companies are like owning so much of everything we consume in media that people are starting to step in to break that apart, not just in the legal side, but also in the tech side, creating infrastructure on the internet that give that power back to the users, not just keeping it with the companies.
Yeah.
It's a cycle of that. Like every time we have some new innovative technology, a big move, which was the internet, there's going to be a concentration of power very quickly towards a large, a small group of companies. So, and then people step in and go, "Hey, that's not right," and then it gets broken up. And then somewhere down the line, we're going to have some new technology that's going to change things again.
All right.
People are going to be in power again. Break that apart. We just go through that.
Yeah.
It's cyclical.
Yeah.
So Jeff Bezos just needs to have a couple more divorces, and then we can break up Amazon. So that's what you're saying, Amy?
Well, the thing is actually there's like people have been questioning like the power that he has. Like, the reason, like, he made billions. He got to a certain point in his billions completely by the success of Amazon, and then went further with putting a lot of his competition out of business by instituting regulations, policies with local politicians, getting massive tax credits.
Right.
The big thing, he was like trying to really play up the whole, oh, I'm paying all my employees $15 an hour, and I'm going to push for legislation for everyone else to get $15 an hour, because while I can afford it for all my employees, I know a lot of my competition is going to get killed by a sudden rise in wages. So he knows how to play the game where he makes the billions, gets to a point where it's like, all right, a normal guy with some good, with a brain on his head, good head on his shoulders, and some know-how can get fairly rich. Now I'm going to get a couple politicians in my back pocket and get even richer than that by instituting policies that only make me even richer. I'm going to get bailouts. I'm going to get subsidies. I'm going to get regulations, zoning, stuff like
Tax
that.
incentives.
Exactly.
Et cetera.
Tax abatements. Yep.
Yeah.
This is where I hate saying this because I know the libertarian in me hates the idea, but I'm not saying that the government should be regulating big tech or
Oh no.
I'm saying that we should be stripping the government's ability to give them an advantage over someone else who comes up with, like you were saying, like he gets to raise minimum wage or raise these wages and engage in all these schemes that deal with the law, and people, smaller companies aren't able to compete. But also what's interesting about that is I keep going back to, when it comes to Amazon at least, and I'm not even thinking that there needs to be an active solution. I almost feel like just the natural forces of things will come into play, because Blockbuster put out a lot of mom and pop video rental stores by just, they had access to the latest movies that came out, and they were able to get that stuff out and at lower prices. Well, Blockbuster's peak video store numbers was in 2006. By 2010, they had declared bankruptcy.
So you got to look at, the major shift then. Did Blockbuster, Blockbuster obviously didn't get enough politicians in the back pocket to either expand their business model, because you look at Netflix, you look at Amazon, you look at Facebook.
Someone offered to sell Netflix to Blockbuster. The CEO of Blockbuster looked at it and said, no, that's not what we want to do.
Yeah.
They could have, if they had bought Netflix, they could have, because Blockbuster was doing something similar to Netflix. They were doing that mail-in stuff where you could order stuff by mail. And then, Netflix was doing
you just the CDs.
Yeah. And, it's also the same thing with Sears and Roebuck, where it was a company that, like Amazon, you ordered stuff instead of, like, the internet of the age was the mail order catalog, where you could order pretty much anything you wanted from Sears. And then they started creating these physical brick and mortar stores. And then they did not adapt well to the internet. and then they went under. So
Yeah.
I have a feeling that something is going to happen that's going to bring when a company's not having to deal with competition under a true free market system, it atrophies and it becomes so used to not having to compete that when some new competitor comes in, they can't deal with it. It reminds me of that scene from The Social Network where what's his name? The guy who created Napster was talking about how he brought down the record companies, and one of the guys goes, "Well, no."
Yeah.
He goes, "No, you lost. Like you lost in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled it illegal." And he goes, "Yeah, you want to buy Tower Records?" Like he brought him.
Yeah.
Like he lost the court battle, but the natural forces of things was that he brought down a record company. Now he also did it through illegal stuff, so I'm not, or
Yeah, you had LimeWire. You have so many other ways now that people get free music, or they just complete change the model where it's now okay. You can subscribe to Spotify, or Apple Music, or Pandora, or something. We'll give you all the music you want for a small fee, so that it kind of feels free, but it's just you're still making money. Actually, right now, the subscription model is actually one of the most profitable ways of making money. No one wants you to buy something outright. They'd rather you subscribe to it.
Correct.
I'm glad I own this PC, but they're starting to say, would you like to rent a graphics card?
They used to. Well, they rent a center back in the 80s and 90s with furniture and TVs and all kinds of
VCRs and
VCRs. Yeah, that's a very old model. Yeah,
but it's come back now with the digital
side.
Exactly.
Yeah, digital. Everything switched digital, and that was its own. It was its own entity. Now it's just their, like you said, the subscription service within the digital realm. Yeah,
right.
And that's why there's 3 rows of. Sorry about that, TJ. That's why there's 3 shelves of CDs behind me that you can see, and several more that you can't. And that doesn't include my vinyl.
I still have cassettes and VHS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got for those of you who know, I have a huge in my new house. I have a huge basement that's it's been somewhat renovated, but it still needs a little bit of work. But man, if I finally get that renovated and everything's set up and I've got the funds for it, I'm just going to start buying. Going to every used bookstore, used place, and buying up pretty much anything and everything, like cassette. I've really become an ardent. Like I'm big into VCR stuff. I believe in using some of this older. I get that the stuff fades over time. People don't DM me.
Well, VHS is a better longevity than CD.
Well, yeah, it's like your Nintendo 64 cartridges are going to last longer than your PlayStation CDs because of all the scratches and stuff. But like getting the vinyl records, the 45, the 75 RPMs, getting cassette tapes, getting all this other stuff because. And
start hitting estate sales too.
Yeah, because at some point they're going to get rare, but also, people have moved to a digital, and the digital is very easy to get rid of.
Or alter.
Oh yes, alter is probably even worse than that.
Yeah, once there's a physical copy of it, it's the truth of that copy is there in front of you.
All right.
You can't,
And that's what I think that's what I was saying with the NFT. They're trying to bring back having the original.
Well, that doesn't. I mean, I'm having a difficult time wrapping my head around the NFT because.
Well, they say you create it, right? So the thing is if you create it, and you put it on the blockchain. And then it'll identify the photo and go.
So it's got a stamp on it.
It's essentially has a stamp that says you are the owner, or you're at least the first person that had this. Anyone else that tries to copy it, like you can sell copies of it, and you'll say, "Oh, this is copy 1 of 10." So you'll see on some of these NFT markets, they'll just have like some artwork, and it'll say 1 of 10 or 1 of 5 or something, and it'll say what are the bids going for, what is it supposed to be valued at. And people will just own that. And then it will never, like, people are saying, well, you can just copy and paste. Well, but you'll never have it's kind of like with Bitcoin. You'll never have the blockchain validate you own an actual coin. You'll just have a picture of a coin.
Gotcha.
So it's like, I got this, piece of paper with the code for 1 Bitcoin. You throw it in the blockchain and it says, no, that coin exists in someone else's wallet. That's not real. Because they tried hacking the Bitcoin and you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
The problem was, what if I could just copy Bitcoins? You can't do it.
Yeah.
Just like with this, you can't just copy the artwork.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. So there's basically a blockchain stamp on the digital art. Okay.
And the stamp isn't backed by some institution, like kind of like where, you know, it's like if I want to build
into you as the author.
to me. It's like if I want to build something in my like your house. If I want to build something, I just build it. But that's not how it works. I got to get a permit. I got to take pictures. I got to have an inspector and all this stuff, fulfill all the requirements to build what I want on my property. So what? It's like, but then the blockchain, it says, no, that ownership, that certificate of authenticity is yours, authenticated by you.
Gotcha. All right, cool. I like it. Oh, this is cool. I have to save it. Sorry, guys.
No, no problem. So how was your guys' Christmas?
Oh, fantastic. It was a good time.
It got really cold here.
Yeah, you got some. Didn't you get like the 5 degrees and some snow?
Yeah. So my prior occupants of this house, they, for whatever reason, they put the washer and dryer in a enclosed sunroom that's not insulated.
Oh shit! It's not gonna. Your dryers are gonna dry shit.
Yeah. So pipes. Well, there's a tray sink out there too, and that froze, and then the pipe broke. So.
Oh shit.
So we went underneath, my relatives and I, we went underneath the house, found the pipes where it's still insulated in the basement, which stays pretty warm actually without any kind of heat. Cut the pipes and then put some stop valves on it. And because what I'm going to eventually do is just install the washer and dryer in the downstairs and have it drain into a sump pump that's already there. So I don't know why they didn't do that already. I'm guessing it's never gotten this cold here in recent memory, because I talked to one of my neighbors who used to live in this house, and she said that she never had to deal with this kind of problem. But honestly, I don't want my washer and dryer outside. I want it inside the house somewhere. And the nice thing is, at the very end of my hallway, there's this little door that I think may have one day at some point been used as a laundry chute. So I'm going to open it up on the other side and just use that as a laundry chute. So that way I can.
That's weird. Usually if there's a basement, the house that has a basement, usually the laundry area is in the basement.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's an old house. It's like a 1931 house, and it was like the basement has always been that way, because the garage is down in the basement as well. The entrance to the garage is behind the house. Just because of the way where it was built. So I guess I would have to. I'm not sure what they did, or maybe I don't know what washers and dryers looked like back in the day. But that's just what I'm going to be doing with that. But other than that, I mean, the Christmas season went by really fast. But I remember when I was working at retail during this time of year, it went very slowly. Those 8-hour shifts could be kind of brutal.
Oh yeah. You're talking about Sears and Roebuck. I used to work for Sears in the late 80s, early 90s. And Christmas time was just, it was non-stop. The hours would just fly by. And you'd be working 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-hour shifts. Pick up extra cash.
Yeah, I used to work at a video store back in the 80s and early 90s, so...
And they still do, Cal. They still do, Cal. They still do. You've got to train them.
Yeah, and you didn't mind sending them outside to do laundry.
Nope. No, there were no machine, really, not too many machines back then.
My maternal grandmother and my maternal great grandmother both had washing machines that were built sometime, I'm guessing, in the late 1950s. My great grandmother, I mean, it was a huge white 50s looking cylinder that had no lid that you threw the laundry in, and then after it washed, you had a hand cranked press that you would put the clothes through and then crank it to basically force all the water out of it to hang
The
it to
two
dry.
rollers, yeah.
And then my grandmother had the nicer model of that because it was she had an electric wringer, so it would snap the rollers together, and then the belt from the washer would actually turn the wringers to wring out all the water. So, and those suckers were still working into the 1980s,
Huh.
and they were used at least once a week, and they were still, working into the early 1980s. My grandfather finally broke down and bought a new washer and dryer probably about 1980, 81, 82, something like that. So, but then again, they both had outhouses on their properties as well. And didn't have
shitters.
Yeah, didn't have indoor plumbing till sometime probably in the early 1980s for my grandfather and grandmother's house, and my Uncle Bob and my great grandmother, their house I don't think got an indoor bathroom till probably the late 1980s. So it was kind of nice being down there without even thinking about it. I kind of grew up in the 19th century in some ways.
Yeah,
which is probably why whenever I take quizzes about, what's your sense of humor like or something like that, it always dates me as being 20 or 30 years older than I actually am.
So you'll get there soon enough.
Yeah, I know. It's like you're trying to age me, you bastards.
That's right, you fuck. You old bastard.
But, I mean, but hey, there's nothing wrong with having your comedy funny bone shaped by the Marx Brothers and the like, so...
Good to see you too, Geeky. Oh, fuck. Yeah, you haven't been around in a while. You were here, I think one of our last Fireside chats was about a month ago. And then we had the D&D stuff. I don't know if you stopped in for the D&D games, but if you haven't, make sure you stop in for those. Raul is a DM for one of them, and Drew Bay is a DM for the other one. So we have 2 a month. Like I said earlier, if you had caught this earlier, you would have known that we were going to have a D&D game today, but there's some scheduling conflicts, so we'll schedule that for the 5th. So next Wednesday, the 5th, will be the D&D game run by Rollo.
Anyone get anything for Christmas?
Oh yeah. My main girl was over with. She embroidered my name on a custom-made stocking that she put together, and just filled it with a bunch of cool shit. And then she knows I do like fountain pens, and I like H.P. Lovecraft, so she found this old fountain pen advertisement from the 1920s for a fountain pen that H.P. Lovecraft used.
Oh, wow.
and had it matted, professionally matted and framed under museum glass.
Very nice.
Yeah. If you want to see that embroidered stocking, Christmas stocking filled with the gifts, with her in a fur trimmed robe with my collar around her neck, you just go over to the Instagram account and you will see that. That's what Geeky is referring to. And holy shit, Geeky, 3 jobs. What are you, Jamaican? Jesus. So that was part of my Christmas was that, and she baked me a banana bread. So
nice.
Every time she comes over, she brings a baked good. It's part of her.
She also the one that brings you the coconut water?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought so.
Yes, she does. Oh, cool. A Lovecraft goblet or a Thule goblet. Sweet. I like it.
Things always taste best when drank out of the skulls of an elder god. So
absolutely.
Or some eldritch abomination or something. But
right. Oh yeah.
Amos, you or TJ catch our Rogue broadcast the night before Christmas?
Oh, that was fun.
That was a blast.
Yeah,
I had fun with Jack on Jack's show, and then I had a blast just hanging out with the 2 of you that night as well.
Yeah, it was
you
cool.
had your camera way over somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that you could see
I
Vince's
did,
Christmas tree
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was a
I-
really
I-
good shot that you had set up, Vince.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted everyone to see the. That's my living room area. TJ knows it. TJ and Robin, and actually Aaron has too. They've been in the Masculine Geek Fortress of Solitude. But that I wanted to catch all the Christmas accoutrements, the lighted tree, the fire going, the wreath, and the candles and shit. So
Get like a USB extension of some sort to just.
I did actually. Yeah, it's for the webcam. I have because the webcam at USB is probably
Like
8
6
feet.
or 8 feet, yeah.
6 to 8 feet. So I have a and USB is not good over like it starts to crap out around 20, 25 as far as its signal
Yeah.
strength. So but I have a 10-foot extension. So I figured that'd be fine. That's about 15, 16 feet. Yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah, the shot looked great. Hopefully the audience
Thank you.
enjoyed it. It was fun doing. So
Yeah, I had a blast. I wasn't tired. I figured, you know what? Right after Jack's show, we'll just segue into a Masculine Geek Road broadcast.
mhm.
But I think TJ was that when you were dealing with dryer
Washer and dryer?
washer and dryer problems, or were you just engaged with Christmas stuff?
I just engaged with Christmas stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, go back and watch it. It was pretty fun.
I actually, I was playing Santa Claus for a family.
Oh, that's
okay,
awesome.
It
cool.
was my first time. I was a little, to be honest, I was actually really, really nervous because there was a lot of kids. There was originally going to be 18 kids there. This is like a Scottish, clan size gathering.
Mhm.
And it ended up being still like a dozen young kids. And so, and most of them are like under the age of 5, right? So they're still impressionable and all that. Well, I'm putting the suit on and I'm putting everything on and I'm putting the beard on. And my sheer terror is that the beard is going to fall off or something's going to happen and all this magic on Christmas Eve is going to get spoiled.
And you'll be the one to ruin it.
Yes, and I would be the one to ruin it. It's just like, great. TJ.
So, all right, so that's cool. No, did you volunteer for this, or how did you find out about playing volunteer?
Yeah,
Santa?
it's actually this is actually a pretty funny story. So I got a call from them a couple days before Christmas, Christmas Eve, or maybe it was the week before. But they said, "Hey, the guy who's going to play Santa, he just doesn't want to do it anymore. We're kind of like we don't have anybody who wants to do it or is capable of doing it for various reasons." And we still want the kids to be able to believe it. Can you play Santa? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help you out because they're long family friends, grew up with them. And I hung up the phone and I was like, okay, I've never played Santa before. I can't do the Santa voice. I can sound I can do that part. I can do like the merry Santa sound. I just can't talk like an old man. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay,
you have to channel Clary.
Well, I'm not going to say.
Well, that's a bad Santa.
That's true too. Yeah.
Here's the itinerary.
But here was what was funny.
This
was actually one of the most clever things I've ever done. So they sent me a list of 18 of these kids, their names, their age, and a little bit about them. Because what they do with their Santa Claus thing is that Santa Claus comes with a bag full, the bag full of presents, gives a gift to each of them, and says something about the kid to like just show that the Santa knows who they are. It's not just an anonymous, like random, oh, here's something for somebody I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there trying to memorize this stuff. It's like, I have no idea what a lot of these kids look like. They're family friends, the grandkids or kids of family friends. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? I can't do a cheat sheet, can I? Well, then I realized, yes, I can. Years ago, my parents gave me this parchment paper with a inkwell and ink, like that you can use to write on parchment, like you write in the Constitution or whatever. So I went and I made a Santa naughty and nice list and wrote down the names of each of the kids with a little bit about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That way I could pull it out in front of them and it wouldn't look like I'm reading off of a list it seemed like I'm reading from an actual like Santa Claus list. So I go there and cool. One of the parents or grandparents is like, oh, do you want to start handing out the presents? And I said, well, wait a minute. I got to make sure every kid here is on the nice list. And I took out the parchment paper and they're like, the kids went dead silent. They're like, and I go, You're all good. And I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Santa was checking the receipts.
Yes, I was.
All right.
Those kids look genuinely like, oh my gosh, it was like the last
That's
supper painting.
funny.
Is it I? Yeah. Then what was funny is the grandpa who I've known, my whole life, he goes, "Hey, Santa Claus, how old is that parchment paper?" And I look at him and I go, "About as old as you." And the kids are all like, "Wow, that's old." What was also kind of cool at the very end, I guess I pulled it off for some of the kids because they wanted, this is apparently the first time it's ever happened with the family, but they wanted Santa Claus's autograph.
Oh, that's cool.
I ended up doing an autograph signing for the kids. So yeah, that was didn't screw anything up, but then the kids asked me, one of the kids comes up to me and goes, "Santa, can we open up our presents right now?" And I pause because I don't know what the policy is with the family, and they have kind of their rituals. I go, "I don't know, ask your parents. I just give them to you."
That's awesome, TJ.
I was just trying to don't say anything that Santa wouldn't say. And
what would Santa do?
Right. I didn't want, what also worked is I played it kind of low key, which for the older kids was probably appropriate because I think they get put off by the overly, obnoxiously happy Santa. So I was like, the kids didn't want to stand next to me or whatever. I just pat them on the back. We're like, "Yeah, you're fine. Not a big deal if you feel like
too cool for Santa." Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they go through that phase, but it doesn't help when a lot of the Santas are over the top.
They're overly friendly and like a big joke.
They keep rubbing their belly and they're just. Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I was sort of and then I was also kind of, there were a few awkward moments where I'm like, "I don't know, guys, you tell me what you want me to do. I'm just here,
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's cool. It sounds like you had a good time.
I mean, yeah. Now, and I don't think any. Oh, here's the funniest part. So they gathered all the kids next to me, and they said, "Everybody say." They were taking pictures and showing a video conference call for people who couldn't make it. They said, "Everybody say Merry Christmas," and all these kids are like, "Merry Christmas," and they goes, "Now say Merry Christmas, you filthy animals." And I heard all these 5 and 6 year old kids scream, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal."
Nice.
And I'm sitting there trying not to laugh as I'm.
There's no way you can not laugh at that. That's
my gosh. Yeah, it was pretty
cool.
Funny. So that was
very
my
cool.
Christmas.
Nice.
So
you have a.
Go ahead, Vince.
Let me just very quickly, so I don't forget. Andrew has a question for you, TJ. It's off topic, but we'll come back to the Christmas. It's right here for you.
Have I spray painted a rifle? Not that
I don't know what context that is. Maybe we were talking about rifles before.
Is that a euphemism?
It could be. Is that code for something else?
Yeah.
Do we want the ATF joining this live stream?
Yeah.
Too late. Too late.
Nice try, feds.
Right. Nice try, Fed boy.
Have you cut a shotgun to within this inch and millimeter? No, I have not. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Shotgun? What shotgun?
Have you 3D printed?
Right. But go ahead, Robert. You're going to ask another.
I lost all my guns in a boating accident, just for the record.
Yeah, same here. I was going to ask, is that your first time acting, TJ, or have you actually done that before? Any other kind of acting?
I took an acting thing. I mean, other than Christmas pageants, which wasn't really acting. I did a class when I was in middle school. I never really liked I didn't like acting, to be honest. And maybe it was just the parts, because I felt like a lot of the parts that they had me do I felt like it made me kind of feel ridiculous. They weren't parts that it wasn't like a Humphrey Bogart film role or something like that. The kind of stuff that I would have been attracted to, where you're playing a more serious character, somebody who has kind of a sense of dignity. A lot of the parts that they were having me do was you felt like they just felt weird. And so Santa is not somebody I would necessarily feel comfortable playing. But here's what's interesting is one of my relatives who he was Santa Claus. The guy became Santa Claus. In real life, does not have that kind of animated personality. He's very kind of quiet, soft-spoken. But when he put on that Santa suit, like it was like it was like his alter ego came out. And so I think that's almost where, for some actors or for people who want to do well with acting, it's almost like they got to be comfortable bringing they have some part of themselves that they bring out on stage. I never really was comfortable doing that. I always felt like a kind of a clown or kind of ridiculous.
You
I don't
just
know.
felt like you were on stage. People were looking at you.
I wouldn't have I wouldn't have minded, for example, doing some certain types of Shakespeare plays. Like I wouldn't have minded doing Macbeth. Macbeth is a role that I would have, or something out of either Hamlet or some sort of, play where it's not being over the top melodramatic, but being almost more, whatever it is. Like I think the film Beckett was based on a play. That's definitely a movie or a play I would have been interested in doing the role of Beckett. But I could have also done the role of King Henry II, because he's not, what it was? It felt very effeminate. A lot, not the roles I just mentioned, but a lot of roles that I was doing for these, it was like an actor theater practice thing. It felt very effeminate. Like it didn't feel like something a man would be interested in doing. It's something that a man would, I don't know. Like it's the difference between, say, playing Aragorn or Boromir and playing Wormtongue, right? Having a kid play Wormtongue, it's like, or not even Wormtongue. I'm trying to think of something. I don't think Tolkien ever wrote a character that was as effeminate as the one I'm trying to think of.
Right.
Think about the YouTube influencer. We're like, oh my gosh, guys! Oh my gosh, we're playing this game. It's just like, oh my good lord, this guy has
Aaron Clary.
And to some extent, probably it depends on how well he gets riled up. And Andrew's saying he's paying his, and he doesn't have to worry about a seasonal change in the environmental color.
I mean, yeah. If I got a spray
matte
paint,
black.
The mayor's, I'd say the mayor's aid from The Hobbit. Yeah, okay, that's probably a good.
Which was not in The Hobbit.
No,
never novel.
It's
No.
just fucking gay.
But,
and even the mayor wasn't like that.
No, he was.
And I like Stephen Fry, but I mean that just
that was over the top bullshit.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that I didn't. I think that's what's, now that I think about it, I wonder if how many, more masculine type men would be are off put by this stuff. And I'm not saying I was like, Conan the Barbarian in 5th grade. That was the age we were doing it. But I was thinking of more manly roles instead of this like very almost not soap opera, but the kind of stuff you see with YouTube, these Zoomers, right? Where they're like, oh God, like almost like Valley Girl type stuff. Like those were the roles that we had. So, yeah.
Yeah, it all depends on the part. My first paid gig was actually wearing a giant styrofoam loaf of Wonder Bread. I was a loaf of Wonder Bread. That was one of my first paid acting gigs.
Jesus.
And that was weird, but the money was money, and it was actually pretty good money for the time, especially for as young as I was. But autograph wise, the only time I've ever done autographs was when I was somewhere doing a thing for charity, and I was dressed in my TIE pilot costume.
Oh, cool.
And I had some kids that wanted my autograph, and of course they wanted the autograph of the character, not you, not me, the person in the costume.
Exactly.
So when TJ mentioned, signing signatures as Santa Claus and stuff, it's like, yeah, I've done that. It's actually kind of cool doing that, especially when the kids absolutely believe that you are
the TIE
that
fighter pilot
character. And the thing is, for me, the costume is what makes the part, because I don't really feel like the character until I'm actually in the costume. And that's whether I'm professionally on a stage, even if it's just community theater stuff, playing a character, or the stuff I do at conventions, whether it's paid as somebody for a company or just wearing a costume because it's one of the things I do. You know, when the way the chainmail halberd feels on my shoulders, when I cinch up the belt, the way the swords hang from my side, the weight of the swords, it affects how you walk, it affects how you stand, and how you move, and it just can't help but put you in the mindset of that character, and you just start, you know. So it really costume really helps to bring part of life, I think. But
it's like dressing well. When you dress, if you suit up, you're walking around in a suit.
Yeah,
same concept.
Yeah, you're wearing a pair of jeans that fit. You have a nice shirt on. It's tucked in. Your belt's cinched up. You have a jacket or a vest, maybe a hat, and you don't look like all the hundreds of girls that show up at the bagel shop wearing pajama bottoms
and their
fluffy
fucking slippers,
and a oversized sweatshirt.
Yeah.
But manners maketh the man, but so does the wardrobe. So
correct. You were always Jesus in most ways, really?
Yeah.
No shit. Is Jesus Joseph?
Jesus Joseph, yeah.
Amos Jesus.
Jesus,
save me,
Amos
save,
and Joseph.
Save me, Jesus.
Well, I mean, 4 years of ministry experience, kind of.
Well, that's true.
That
too,
being fulfilled.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Oh fuck!
It's interesting. Humphrey Bogart actually liked the theater or preferred it over film. He felt like theater was a more serious acting profession, whereas he felt like film was.
It's hard to do
novel.
retakes.
Well,
everything's in the moment.
Well, that's what was a contrast between him and Cagney. James Cagney saw film as a legitimate art form, and I don't know if he did as well on the theater stage, but he didn't. Not that you would see that differently with Bogart, but I think that's partially why Bogart got some of these performances where the kind of stuff that the intensity you would see on a theater stage. Because one of the things that I learned when we were looking at like acting with theater is stuff had to be kind of over the top, because you have to be able to reach and animate to people who are in the back that can't necessarily, who aren't in the front row seats.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when in silent films, when they first came out, they were so, and in early talkies, people were very melodramatic and over the top in some of their mannerisms and behaviors, because they had been trained in the theater, and they carried that over to the silent era, where you didn't have any verbal dialogue, and you didn't have any meaningful sound, just maybe a musical accompaniment. So that's how you entertain people. It wasn't through, and you had to use your gestures, hand gestures, and all this other stuff. And you really see that in some of the remakes like Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments that are still really over the top in some of the performances, where it's just like, come on, dude, like you're dragging this way out too much.
That's why I hate seeing video of me on stage, even if I'm just at a convention doing a speaking engagement or something like that, because when I'm on stage, I play bigger. My hands move more, not quite Aaron Clary manic, but I mean, it's just I'm more broad on stage, and I also project more, so I'm louder.
You've got a larger presence,
yeah. And when you do that kind of stuff on film, you've got to pull that all in to because it's got to be natural. On film, it has to be like when you're standing in a room talking to someone, the way a person naturally is.
Yeah.
So
he was mentioning Geeky Anomaly was mentioning Yul Brynner. Yul Brynner, if you were teaching if he was teaching a drama class, he would be much more appealing to young men, because his performances were very dignified.
Oh, especially in Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
As Chris, he was. Oh.
Yeah. And then also, of course, Steve McQueen. I mean, imagine Steve McQueen doing a acting class.
Mm-hmm.
Like every guy would, because of course there'd have to be some sort of motorcycle training in it. Because but I mean, he was a good actor. But it's the same thing with John Wayne. There's certain parts that John Wayne would just not play, and he got really upset when Kirk Douglas took one that he thought was effeminate. He's like, dude, there aren't a lot of us manly men left in Hollywood. What are you doing? And so that's where you have these drama classes that I think it's the first impression that a young person's going to get of what acting is going to be like. And they'd say, well, you got to be able to play everything. No, you don't. Ask John Wayne. Ask, all these different actors who kind of played that I mean, it's not to say that John Wayne couldn't act but there were certain types of roles he would not take on. And yes, he played a variety of different roles. His role in The Searchers is completely different from his role in Rio Bravo.
Oh, absolutely.
It's completely different than his role in the what was that film? Operation Pacific, which was a World War II film about the submarines in the Pacific, which was a good film. People should watch it.
Well, even True Grit, the character he played in True Grit was different than any of those. I mean, yeah. So I mean, he had more of a range than some people give him credit, but there are certain parts that were uniquely his. I know when Mel Brooks, I guess, talked to him about Blazing Saddles, it's like, no, there's no way I could do that. And his comment was something to the effect of, that's going to be a funny film if you can get away with it.
Yeah, he read it. Yeah, exactly. He goes, I can't play in it because it's too raunchy, but I'll be the first one to watch it.
Watch it, yeah.
And that's, I think that's if someone was teaching an acting class, it's like, well, what kind of character do you want to play? What kind of roles are you interested in? Because if you're not interested, this idea that you have to be interested in everything or you're not going to make it, that's kind of like telling a writer, oh, if you're not willing to write this type of genre, then you're not going to make it as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Like this idea that you have to be willing to write any genre. Hey, don't ask Stephen King. Try asking him also to write a shorter book.
You mean his ghostwriter?
Oh yeah. So this idea that you have to be versatile in terms of being able to play any role of any kind. There's some guys who can pull that off, like Christian Bale or I can't pronounce his first name. The guy who played the Joker.
Joaquin?
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix. Mm-hmm. I mean, he played Johnny Cash and then he played Commodus in The Gladiator, and then he played the Joker, which was, I'm sure, an intense role to do. And
yeah, some big shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course, Nicholson just played himself.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the Nicholson Joker.
I did too. He's probably my second favorite. Although Cesar Romero is still my favorite.
Romero,
Joker.
Nobody beats that.
No.
It's funny because the Riddler, Frank Gorshin, his grandson owns a cigar shop here in Haddonfield.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I want to get him on the show. I've been talking to him recently, and he owns the main cigar shop and sort of a men's shop, and then next door is a private. You have a key, you can get in 24 hours a day, but it's a very limited by invitation only.
Yeah.
Cigar shop as far as a private lounge and membership bar. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I want to get him on the show.
Yeah, Gorshin was actually a really good actor. He had a lot of range.
He was in a lot of things too.
Oh yeah,
I was surprised when I looked at the IMDb list.
Yeah, that as campy as that series was, it was, especially in the case of the villains, was very well cast.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Burgess Meredith as the penguin. Yep. What's up, Bacon? Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, no kidding. I haven't seen him in anything. Hey, how did the Fortress Zoom go?
Oh, it was good. It was very good.
That was when I was dealing with the frozen pipes.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. That's what we figured.
So, I had to. What happened is I had to make sure that that piping area was cut. It was sealed off with a shutoff valve because it's going to remain freezing. But when the area that broke, there was no shutoff valve for that section. So once the water thawed, it would just start spraying everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like it didn't need to be done that moment, but I'd rather not have to deal with that later on. So, and it wasn't difficult. I mean, this is part of just stuff that would be very useful for people to learn instead of, garbage that they're taught in schools and all this other stuff. Like, if your pipes freeze or if you need to connect if you want to divert water from one area to another, here's how you do it.
Indeed.
And The Buccaneer is a great film, Geeky.
I have
like
not seen that
Heston's
in
Andrew
years.
Jackson.
I haven't seen it either. What's that about?
The Battle of New Orleans, basically.
Oh, okay. All right. I would be interested in seeing that. Yeah. Yeah, Bacon. I think you've missed the past 3. What the fuck? It's been 3 months. Shit. Yeah, we haven't. Thank you for moderating the chat too, Bacon. Appreciate it. Hello, Vanessa Kitty. Jean Lafitte. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Of course, whenever I think of Yul Brynner, I always think of, you can't not think
Westworld.
of King and I, and
Westworld's
great. Well,
when his character blew a head pipe, he's like, bah.
Yeah. I always think of that, etc., etc., etc.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he was.
Which is
good
funny.
in,
He kind of
Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Taurus Bulba with Tony Curtis, I think.
Oh
Was in
shit!
that with
Fucking
him.
Tony Curtis. Holy crap!
Yeah. Of course, Tony Curtis was in the Vikings with Kirk Douglas as well.
That's wild. To
Kirk
me,
Douglas
fucking Tony
playing
Curtis.
Ragnar. So
They were all versatile actors
yeah.
and good at their craft. That's for sure.
Although Harrison Ford's turned out to be a bit of a douche nozzle as of late. There's
Harrison
Harrison Ford, yeah. There's one thing he had said when he first started acting. I guess someone at one of the studios, because this is back still at the end of the studio system, was talking to him, and it's like, Tony Curtis, when his first role, he was a bellboy, but when he walked on stage, you saw him, and it's like, that's a movie star. And Harrison Ford's comment was, well, when he walked on stage, shouldn't you have seen a bellboy? And
jeez,
that his view on acting as being a craftsman, and if you're building a cabinet, you build a cabinet. You build a solid cabinet that works as a cabinet. If you build a dresser, and it's the same thing with the part. If you are playing a cowboy who can't read, can't write, but knows how to ride, knows how to shoot, knows how to rope, you play the part. It's not about being over the top or being the star. It's about being the character. And I 100% agree with that. But then when I hear how he talks about how he sees the character of Han Solo, especially in contrast to like Indiana Jones, I'm like, God, you kind of missed the point of Han Solo.
It's just funny.
yeah.
It's ironic. One of the things I
spurred out
did
on it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I didn't like about Harrison, I don't necessarily like about him as a actor is that I'm not saying he hasn't done some good roles that I enjoy over the years, and I think he's done a very iconic one, like for example Han Solo and Indiana Jones. I think one of the problems is that he's never really been. For example, and it's different with Mark Hamill, I think, because Mark Hamill played Luke Skywalker and the Joker. That's been his two main,
He was in
main
another
career.
movie. I mentioned this before, where he had to go find the thieves who stole his
Corvette
his
Summer.
Corvette Summer. They stole his muscle car. Yeah,
He
he was actually funny in that.
Yeah, it was. And a very young Annie Potts playing a prostitute.
Yep, that's right. Ghostbusters. What do you want?
Yeah.
I have never seen American Graffiti, so I'm planning to watch that. But I know I've known about it since I was a kid because
You should not have mentioned that publicly.
Jeez.
well, it's not like I haven't seen Doctor Strangelove.
Well, that's true. Well, yeah, that's a good trade-off.
Well, no, a part of
Do
me
we
that-
have to have a Masculine Geek movie night or something where we like stream watching a movie? So
It's
TJ
like the
can actually
mystery
see some
mystery
stuff?
science theater 3000 or some shit.
Yeah.
You can do that on Zoom.
We could.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I'm hesitant to watch it is not because I don't think I'll like it. And I get that it's like, oh, that's not literally what it was like back then, maybe, but it's like there's there's this idea that even in a film,
it captured the zeitgeist of that
the
time.
zeitgeist, exactly, the
Yeah,
zeitgeist,
the zeitgeist of
and
the time.
I get,
And it's probably Lucas's best movie.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mhm. As a writer and a director.
Yeah, I'm reading a book right now about a guy who was growing up in the late 50s, early 60s, and he's describing just what life is like. And I get that this was not the case maybe in every single town, but it was depressing to read because for all the problems that their community is dealing with and the town's dealing with, and he doesn't sugarcoat stuff. But I'm thinking about all the stuff that they had that we don't have anymore. And that, and people can talk, there's no point in talking about going back to that because it's not realistic in any way, but
No,
it's this idea. Well, for example, let's talk about American Graffiti. It's about them doing drag racing in really nice cars, or they're talking about teenagers who own nice cars.
Without a cause.
Yeah. Nowadays, teenagers can't afford. First of all, the cars aren't attractive. I mean, I own a Ford Escape. It's a good utility vehicle, but I'm not going to get any chick to just hop into the front passenger seat just because I'm driving a Ford Escape. But if you had a T-Bird or a Corvette back then, you didn't have to be wealthy, and you could work on it yourself. Maybe buy one that was a little bit broken down, and change some of the stuff in it, and you get it working again enough to where you can drive it around.
Well, the fucking door on one of those vehicles was heavier than the car that you have now.
Oh yeah. My first car was a Firebird from a 1970 Pontiac Firebird 350, and there's very little I couldn't do to it. I mean,
yeah, you call those a lead sled.
Well, I replaced the fuel pump in it. I did all kinds of work, regular oil changes, tires, the usual stuff. But I could do any of that stuff, and I could get to the parts in the car.
You could stand in the engine.
Stuff. Oh yeah,
yeah. You can just see the ground when you open the hood.
Yeah,
yeah. And so it's going to be depressing watching a film about teenagers who are able to have access to these very beautiful sports cars and classic cars, and probably have a level of freedom that I didn't experience, and I certainly kids today are never going to experience. One of the things that I'm reading about in this book is the dad's kind of a controlling guy, but what I finally realized is he's controlling by the standards of 1950, 1960, but by today's standards, the dude was incredibly permissive in what he allowed his son to do. And allowed him to do while living in his house and all that kind of stuff. Not just saying that he wasn't kind of authoritarian on certain things, but in other things, it's like, oh my God, he was allowing him to just, kind of do whatever he wanted to do on a lot of stuff. There was a lot more range of, you could go off and you didn't have to explain where you were going to be every 5 minutes and this stuff. And so this is why I have a hard time now watching some of these old films that I enjoy, because I'm like, wow, this is capturing the zeitgeist of the era, and it involves so much stuff that we don't have anymore. And if it ever comes back, it's going to be when my prime, Mick, my prime will be gone. Probably.
Yeah, I would not have wanted to have been born any later than I was.
No, we talked about this before. How we're sort of straddling the analog and digital ages because of our ages, which is kind of cool.
Well,
I mean, I mean, this is I know we're waxing poetic and romantic and sentimental here, and that's all well and good. But our parents complained about shit about our grandparents, so it's just this cycle is meant to continue the way it is because it can't happen any other way. That's just
I'm real tired of hearing you guys complain.
That's just shut up, you. Shut up, you.
Go back to your manger, baby Jesus.
Jesus, Joseph. It's Amos,
Jesus, Amos, and Joseph.
That's right.
Jesus. Oh God.
Your mom was a whore.
No, so I wonder if that's, what's worse is living in an age where you never got to experience stuff and don't know about it, or where you had it and now it's gone.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, and I think that there's a bittersweetness and there's trade-offs with both. Like there's a lot of stuff I remember from my childhood and when I was younger, and I'll always remember the days before the internet. And so there's a personal sense of loss on a lot of stuff, whereas younger kids will have never known that. So, but at the same time, I didn't grow up during the big band era. I didn't grow up when there was, you know, a lot of like social dancing and there was much more meaningful community activities. But I'm not so, I guess, emotionally numb to the point where I can't imagine what it would be like or what it would provide for people to give them a sense of belonging and purpose and just something to do.
Well, you're aware of it at least. I mean, that's the thing. There are things I would have loved to have gone to rock concerts in the 1970s, and there are tons of bands I would have loved to have seen live back in that time. But I know what I've missed. And in the case of like the big band era, I know something about what I missed. Whereas I think, and maybe I'm selling this younger generation short, and maybe if James was here, he'd call me out on that. But I get a feeling that a lot of people that age and younger than James aren't aware of what they're missing, you know, because they think they have
nothing
it all
to compare it to.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they're not. I mean, I think that yeah, they're not aware, and there's kind of a general. I probably more on the outlier of my generation in that I look at older stuff. I look at black and white films. I study old things. I read history. I'm just interested in the past.
Well, we all are. I think that's why we're all here. I mean, I think that's kind of how we all found each other.
I mean, speak for yourself. No.
Well,
shut up, you.
Get back in the main.
When we want comments from the kids' table, we'll ask for it.
Right? Go back to the little table.
I think that's where it's going to be almost. I think Rollo made a comment years ago on his blog where he talked about how guys after a certain age who are still, you know, average frustrated chumps who are happy are almost the most depressing because they never woke up and realized what they could have been or what could be. And I wonder if that's almost going to be the tragedy for these kids growing up, is that they never they may come to an awakening at some point, but when certain life events have passed, I mean, this is one of the issues that I personally have to just deal with stuff where you become aware of stuff. And you know, I'm in my 30s. I'm becoming aware of stuff more and more where, damn, if I had known this when I was 19, you know, or when things were just money. I get that. I know. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Boy, it's spilt milk, TJ.
Mm-hmm.
It's spilled milk. But I think that's
I'm not saying I don't agree with you, but to ruminate too much over that, you'll go fucking nuts.
Oh yeah,
let me kick this back to Amos Jesus Joseph over here with the Bible. What does the Bible say? Knowledge increases sorrow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean that's an old.
Well, yeah,
old one.
It's a weird thing that
Preacher La Rosa here on the pulpit.
Yeah, see,
there's a
that's
weird
for me. I don't remember anything else.
There's a weird correlation between IQ and depression. Surprisingly,
right.
The more and you know what's even more depressing than that? People who are more depressed have a better grip of reality.
No, I absolutely agree with that.
What did Hemingway say? That happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing I know.
Mm-hmm.
You have to willingly choose to be happy and ignore what you know to maintain what you know. Like,
there's a huge self-awareness factor that is involved here.
Yeah. The more I can definitely tell you this, the more self-aware I become of how things are, it's almost where I'll put it this way: to appreciate something that's beautiful, you have to be able to experience sorrow when it's destroyed. If you don't experience sorrow when something is destroyed that's beautiful, you will never be able to appreciate its beauty while it still exists. And so I think that that's where that's the price you pay. Where if you want to experience joy at a certain level, you have to also be willing to accept the consequent, I guess, whatever word people want to use, bittersweet, heartache, sorrow, or
Well, there's all those emotions. All those emotions have places. It's important not to be overwhelmed by them. I do want to say this real quick. We have a question. We have a comment from a Twitch viewer. 3 a.m. and I'm trying to figure out what's on this man's shelves. Laugh my ass off. So you want to bring some joy to our Twitch viewer, Robert, and explain what's on your shelves?
Well, it might be easier if I explained what isn't on one of my shelves. that might take less time.
Right. Give it like a too long didn't read version.
Most of the shelves in here are filled with Japanese comic books, mostly in Japanese, but some are English translations as well. Beyond that, there are several cases that are filled with various CDs. So a chunk of my music collection. And then there are the odd and end toys that have taken up their space on various shelves. Usually, in the case of some of the toys, they are connected somehow to the Japanese comics contained therein. But some of the shelves are just some places where some of my 6-inch G.I. Joes have found residence, or Transformers that pop up on my desk from time to time. There's a Biotron, who's known by the name of Robot Man from his original Microman in Japan, or Micronauts here. And then, I've also got shelves of game books, but this is like an example of this is Transformers, the manga. This is from the Japanese manga. There are 3 volumes of it, but this is actually an English translation of the Japanese cool. Transformers manga.
Nice.
Transformers originated in the U.S., though, right?
Yes and no. Transformers by name originated in the U.S. Transformers as a toy line came from Japan, from Diaclone and Microman. Yeah. They were like Perceptor was a little toy microscope that would turn into like a weapons platform for Microman figures. So, and the compartments on certain old Transformers, like the Insecticons, were places where the Diaclone pilots would fit. So,
okay.
But the names and stuff, Optimus Prime was Convoy in Japan and so forth. So they have their Japanese names and they have their English names. And so, yeah. So they're Japanese in origin, but how they're known here is completely an American interpretation. So
cool.
But then, yeah, so there's all kinds of odds and ends. Klingon model ship that I've yet to build that is something that just came in.
Klingon model ship?
Yeah. Klingon D7 from the original series.
Ooh.
Okay. Now, is it like a snap tight, or is it glue?
That one is, some of the ones I've got in the other room are actually nicer ones that are different. And then I've got my gaming shelf over here, so it has stuff like that.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd bring some of that out.
Yeah. So, and then there's also stuff like this, which I actually did some work on for the English edition.
What? I can't read that. What's that called?
This is The Dark Eye, and this is The Magic of Aventuria, which is
okay. Is it German?
This is in English. I actually did some work on the English translation.
Cool.
So, yeah, there's stuff like that. I've got my Twilight 2000 over there. 6-inch G.I. Joe that I've yet to open.
Oh, nice. So. What was that? It looks like Major Blood.
It's actually a Viper. A Cobra Viper.
Okay.
But I do have a Major Blood over on the shelf.
This is my favorite character in the Fang helicopter.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then this is also fairly new. Came in from Gargoyles.
Oh, that series was pretty cool.
Yeah, it actually was for a Disney show. It was actually It was actually cool.
That's some good. Oh wow, that's pretty badass. That's like McFarlane quality.
Yeah, it's from NECA, so hopefully it doesn't break coming out of the boxes. They're kind of weird, but
I've got a bunch of McFarlane. Remember he did the movie Monster series?
yes,
I have
yeah.
all those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's actually, I think, a new Kurt Russell from Thing coming out, and I think it's McFarlane that's doing it, or
yeah,
it's
it is.
NECA. So,
His sculptures are great.
yeah, so, but yeah, that's just some of the stuff around here, but lots of, let's see, we've got, Japanese Mazinger Z book that's in Japanese, so.
Okay.
But it's like a MOOC, so it's got all kinds of illustrations and stuff in it and designs.
Nice.
So
Sweet.
yeah, so games, toys, comic books, and stuff. And then the room right next to me is filled with some of my history books and some of my sci-fi books and adventure novels and pulps and stuff. And then right outside this office door, this entire wall from where I'm sitting all the way over is just filled with Japanese model kits. And then I've got Japanese DVDs and Blu-rays.
You have to one of these days you have to give us a
walking
webcam.
tour.
Yeah, like a little tour. Like, yes, that would be very cool.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. That might happen. I am kind of protective about some of the things I own, because there are certain things I own that have value beyond sentimental value.
Gotcha.
And which is, you can figure out where I am in Indiana.
Say no more. Yeah, say no more.
Yeah, there was back in the late 80s, and it may have been Comic Artist Ben Dunn, but there was an anime collector whose house was broken into, and his collection was pretty well stolen.
Oh shit!
And it was one of those things that this is back in a time where there's no thief would have known, what anything that an animation cell was of any value, or a Japanese book was of any value, or a VHS or anything like that. So the fact that his stuff was targeted, and I think this was down in Texas, so I've just always been a little bit cautious. I've had not this place, but when I lived in another place in downtown Indianapolis, I was burglarized the Thursday or the Wednesday or Thursday of Celebration 3, which is a big Star Wars convention at the convention center. And they stole, TV, VCR, DVD player, PlayStation, that kind of stuff. Some jewelry, one of which was my state championship band ring, which is probably the one thing that they stole that really pissed me off the most. But what was funny is they left everything really valuable behind because they had no idea what it was.
No idea the value of it.
Yeah. So, because I do have my comic book collection is mostly silver and bronze age, but I do have some golden age books, including the first appearance of Captain Marvel Jr. and stuff. So so my comic book collection fills another room in the house. So I don't have a man cave. I have a house. Every man needs a man house. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What I like to term for here,
study.
The masculine. Well, I'm in my study right now. Yes, but the masculine geek fortress of solitude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which
I was really thinking about
Doc
that.
Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really thinking about that a lot when I moved into my original house, because I'd always wanted to study. I can't remember what cartoon or TV show it was, but the main character had a study. He had his fireplace, he had his bookshelves everywhere, he had everything he needed, and it was kind of his personal sanctum where if he wanted to just be alone by himself to work on his stuff, he could go in there. And I was thinking about how a lot of houses like the one I grew up in didn't really have that. The office space for working at home was in the living room next to the rest of the family stuff. So there wasn't a lot of privacy. You weren't able to get a lot of peace and quiet. And I was thinking about how a lot of house designs nowadays don't really account for that. They don't acknowledge, like, how how cultural and social changes affect architecture, where
Mhm.
he would say, well, where's the man going to have his study? What an engineer, 100 years ago would think about, or maybe even further than that, 130 years ago would be thinking about that. We'll design a house. Whereas today they're like, what study? Like, why does a man need a study? Right? It just wouldn't even occur to them to do that. So I kind of have a study room, but it's more like a bedroom right here. And I'm making it work. I'm putting in an electric fireplace that's being donated by one of my relatives, and I got the bookshelves up. I've got all the artwork and things like that. So it's as close to a study as I'm going to get in this house. But if I got older and retired, and I'm having my own house built, I would definitely put in a traditional study.
Is that the room that we've seen? That
Yeah.
the white walls with the door right behind you?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do behind me is I'm going to have the fireplace there. It's basically just a moving cabinet because it's an electric fireplace. But it's a really nice one that used to be in a relative's house. So that's the closest thing I'm going to have for as far as a study. But what's funny is, people are like talking about my old house where I built a detached outbuilding office. Like, oh, is that your man cave? I was like, I don't have a man. First of all, I don't have a man cave, and my house is my entire space. I don't need to go to a separate space. Every single part of this house is mine. Every space in it is for my intent and purpose. But even if I was to have a half a dozen kids, there's still going to be space there specifically for me. Maybe the downstairs basement gets renovated and they're living down there, or they're just spending most of their time down there. But I'm not moving to another area to have there's no man cave. But that's when a guy's almost been like kicked out of the house.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I haven't seen, like, one guy turned his barn into it was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. He turned it basically into like a sports bar of some kind, where it's got, it was like a combination of a cigar lounge and a sports bar. It was amazing. I thought it was odd. Like, I could totally see. The problem was that, it's a yielding of the house space.
Yeah. But a lot of guys do it. I mean, and I understand wanting to have a place to go for privacy, but it's like, we're not talking about a place to go for privacy. We're talking about a place where you hide all your stuff because you're not allowed in the rest of the house. That's your woman's domain. And that, to me, is just wrong.
Yeah, it's like my Star Wars poster I have that's displayed right next to my front door. I've always said the Star Wars poster is going to be in the main part of my house, wherever it is. And somebody's like, well, what if your wife doesn't like it? I'm like, well, she's going to have to get used to it. She's going to have to enjoy looking at it.
There's the door.
Literally, right next to the poster, there's the door.
Well, I've heard this from friends and other people and other idiots. Well, you have to compromise. I'm like, no, you have to compromise. I don't compromise. There's none of that shit.
No, it's like,
no, the Star Wars poster will stay.
Well, for example, if she wants to go deal with like the kitchen and decorate it the way she wants to and make it hers, it's like, okay, fine. I'm not gonna get upset.
You can have the kitchen. You can have the kitchen in the bathroom.
That's all you get. If she wants to post a poster of hers, or there's something like, okay, fine. I'm not gonna make a his. And it's not even that. It's the who's making the decision. Like, if she said, hey, your Star Wars poster would actually look better here, and it actually makes sense, I'm not going to say, well, no, I'm not even open to the discussion. But if somebody says, I don't like it, and so it needs to go, that's always the frame that they go from is, oh, well, I don't like it, so it's my say ultimately over where something gets put. No, it's my say.
Well, I mean, well, you're not, unless you allow it, you're not going to get to that point where a woman you've brought into your life is even going to fucking say that.
Right.
It's going to be a non-issue, TJ. It's not.
Well, right.
If you're designing your life that way, I mean, other guys that are not doing this, I understand they have to put up with that kind of shit.
Right.
Well, did you guys see that tweet about girls got picked up, went on a date. She changed the guy was playing heavy metal, and she changed the station, and he turned the car around and took her back home, dropped her off, and left.
Yep.
Date over before it even began.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that is very mercenary, especially with someone that I guess with someone you just met who gives a fucking shit. But that's happened to me after maybe a first or second encounter, as far as like wanting to change the station and doing so or attempting to do so while I'm driving. Like, no, you never touch a man's radio.
Nope, not at all.
When you are in an extension, this is his castle. And I'll say it in a mischievous kind of, half serious, half joking voice, but they get the look from me, and the women know the look, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, because some women are used to that kind of shit. They're used to just doing whatever they want. No, you don't do what you want when you come into my domain, whether that's my car, whether you're on my motorcycle, or you're in the Fortress of Solitude.
Now, are you finding that to be a generational thing, Vince, or do you? Because in my experience, it's usually toward the younger end of things. The women closer to our ages will ask, "Do you mind turning that down, or could we listen to something different?" Well, they won't just automatically do it. Whereas, a 30-year-old hops in your car and she's turning it over to some auto-tune crap or something like that.
For the most part, I would say yes, you're correct. But it also depends on how other men have handled them in the past, as far as like their self-awareness, or not handled them. Their self-awareness of who and what you are, and how what they've done, what they think they're entitled to. So, for the most part, yes, I think the younger generations feel more entitled to that kind of shit. Whereas, yes, more women our age, a little more. They'll even say, "Oh, they'll be passive aggressive about it."
Yeah.
They'll say, "Oh, you like listening to this?" Yes. I love when it's cold outside and there's some snow coming down with this coffee at my side, fucking listening to jazz music, big band jazz. And you know what? You're here with me enjoying my company. You're going to listen to it too. That's the way it goes. No, I'm not a total dick. There may be times especially if the relationship, however it's set up, we're on a road trip. Yeah, I'm interested in something that you want to. Oh, sure, go ahead. You may change the radio station. You may put on something that you like, or plug in your phone and go through your playlist. Yeah, that's fine. I have no idea. I have no problems with that. But for the most part, unless I say otherwise, yeah, you're not touching my fucking radio.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Yeah, around the holiday time, my youngest really likes Christmas music. He sings Christmas music. The 7-year-old sings Christmas music all year long. That's just his thing.
Yeah.
So around the holidays, I will play Christmas music, but it's either rock Christmas music or classical, the traditional, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Perry Como, the Andrews Sisters, Bing Crosby, that kind of Christmas music.
The Charlie Brown Christmas special CD.
Yeah. So I will play some of that, especially if I'm driving. But if I'm driving, if I am behind the wheel, we are listening to whatever the hell I want to listen to, which means if I want to listen to Powerwolf, we are listening to operatic power metal werewolf music, and that's just all there is to it. And because I'm driving and I need that while I'm driving, because it keeps me from killing people,
right? It tempers your road rage.
Yeah, it's just otherwise I become the Lord Humongous of the Wasteland.
There you go. Can't have that.
No one wants to see that. No one wants to see me in a leather Speedo.
Right.
So, especially TJ, since he's thoroughly convinced that all of the original Mad Max movies are homoerotic. So. Which he's not completely wrong about. But
however, I do. I know. But I also love Power. Well, this is completely unrelated to that, but ironically enough, I do love Powerwolf. I listen to them all the time.
Yeah, they're great.
When I'm driving, I have to watch out though, because I start getting into it, and then I'm driving, at a speed I should not be driving.
Well, see, I can do that with like Blue Oyster Cult. So, you know,
There you go. BOC.
Love Blue Oyster Cult.
Yep.
I also like Alan Parsons' projects. Yeah, musically, I'm pretty well all over the place.
Yeah, right.
You know, jazz, especially big band era stuff, blues, rock, metal. I don't get into the Cookie Monster metal. You know, I like singers who can actually sing, but I mean, you know, I love Night Ranger. I think Midnight Madness is probably a perfect album because there's not a bad song on it. Conversely, another perfect album is Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell with Ronnie James Dio. If I have any complaint about that album, it's that it's too short because I think the total runtime on it's like about 45 minutes. So, but yeah, so I like a lot of different music. I like some classical music. Not really into opera.
Yeah, I'm
Do not like
opera.
country, but I will listen to Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash because
Old school.
Because there's an edge to them, which is sad because I'd love to sing metal, but my voice, I'm more of a crooner, balladeer, country. That's just the range I can sing comfortably, but I can sing some rock songs as far as if stuff like by Asia, John Wetton. He's kind of in my vocal range, but he can still go higher than it's comfortable for me to go. I can do a falsetto. It's just not comfortable, and I do not look good singing a falsetto.
You just have to squeeze your nuts and you hit those high notes.
Yeah, and it's like, nah, I'm happy having the 4 sons that I've got, but I'm told by certain women that they want more. So, you know, it's nice to be wanted, and I like to have that stuff in operating order. So squeezing them in a vice in order to hit, you know, a high note and aha sound.
I didn't say a vice.
But man, to hit those notes.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Aaron has it so easy with that high voice. So
that's he and Rob can do it. Yeah,
he whips out the hand and it just
that's
goes
right.
way up there.
The gay hand just does it. Gay hand in the rum.
Yeah.
Oh shit! All right, we're coming up on the hour and 43 minutes we've been broadcasting. So I think we're going to start wrapping it up. Does anyone in the chat have a question for anyone on the panel? I know we're just talking about random shit, but we'll take some questions.
Yeah, it's definitely been very random tonight, but
so sometimes
that's not bad. But I was looking forward to gaming as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Who's got the clock?
TJ.
Yeah.
We're more advanced techniques here. If you know anything about Masculine Geek, so you have to already have gotten the girls there, Andrew, and that's more. That's an Aaron Clary Balwick, and I know you're just fucking around. I know you're just fucking.
How do
around.
I get the girls?
How do I get the girls? Yeah, if you don't know how to interact with women by now, yeah, there's no hope for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can't help you. Sorry. We'll still hang out, you know, in the chat and whatnot. Forum with the FOUR forum, CA $5. Where does the purple go when I drink grape juice? Well, next time you piss, check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
I honestly don't know.
Red grapes to green.
Exactly. I honestly can't answer that, and I know you're fucking around, but thinking on it, it gets metabolized into your body.
Mm-hmm.
The purple goes away. Hopefully.
If you get one of those like anatomy models,
There
you know
you
how
go.
like the organs are all colored, the purple one, that's where it goes.
You look for the purple one, yeah. And make sure next time you drink grape juice, go ahead and eat some asparagus. It'll smell really good too. So there you go.
And wash it down with some Everclear.
Exactly.
Ooh.
But thank you for that super chat. I appreciate that for him. Anyone else have a question? You can super chat or not super chat, whatever. That's fine.
Geeky says, do any of you know of a website to shop for Victorian decor? Like,
well, dude, really? Really?
I can explain.
Really? All right.
I
You know
can
what?
explain.
No, here I just have to mute you.
I mean, he doesn't even come into the game, so I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I know
Mr. Game Designer doesn't play games.
He's like, yeah, I design the games. I don't play them. All right.
He must have heard me trash
Let me hear
talking
this
his
wonderful.
generation.
Let me hear this wonderful and enlightening explanation, James.
Well, the short of it is that I was at work,
Oh well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay.
and my shift ended at 9.
Oh, all right.
And I forgot the time zone thing.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Motorcycle
All right.
came today. I was hoping to ride
Oh,
that
cool.
back, but I have not. The helmet that I thought was in stock at a store near me was not in stock at a store.
Make sure you go and you try them on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't just say, "Oh, my head's big, so I get a large." And no.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I went out to go find it.
All right. Good. You have a leather jacket.
I'm probably going to grab that at the same time.
All right,
I
good,
can't-
yeah, and get yourself
I
some
can't see
gloves
one
just to
of
protect your knuckle. Your knuckles are important.
Mhm.
I mean, as you gain more experience and more comfort, you can say, all right, well, maybe I won't wear the gloves and I wear a long sleeve shirt, you know. But when you first start out, you want to suit up. But to get back to your question, Geeky, as far as Victorian decor like desks and chairs, I would go to Etsy.
Mhm.
There's a lot because I was looking for Civil War, camp and desk stuff that the generals and the officers would use. There's a certain name for it, and it's escaped me at the moment. But anyway, I was looking for that, and I came across the various other if you're looking at this, they give you recommendations. Like, well, that's not what I want, but that's kind of cool. That's a great looking desk. But
Mhm.
yeah, check out Etsy. All right. Well, welcome to the end of the show, James. It's good to
what
have
have
you.
guys
See
been
you as
talking
always.
We've been talking about.
We've been talking
What's
about
that?
D&D. We've been talking about old time acting and actors and all kinds of good stuff. Just fielding random questions. We talked about women and not having them touch our radios without permission, and changing the channel and whatnot.
Has that been a
TJ's joy
problem?
of home ownership.
No, it hasn't. No, that was just a general question that came up, but that's not really a problem, no. And then TJ's he had
Get
a
your
pipe-
hands off
he
my
had a pipe
knob.
burst. That's right. Well,
Yeah, it doesn't sound as good when you
it doesn't
complain
sound
like
good. No. It's like get your hands on the knob, but not that
that.
knob.
Yes.
Mhm.
Stay off the car knob.
Lexical ambiguity.
Exactly. So don't do that. And then TJ had a pipe burst in his house, so we're done with that.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, exactly. A pipe burst.
Well, I don't know if he's talking about like an actual pipe or if he detonated. Did you smoke meth? Did you smoke bad meth?
Yes, it was.
Did
It
you
was
smoke
bad.
something you thought was meth and one of your pipes blew up?
Yeah, no, this was an actual water pipe.
This is part of the
Part of his house. He was doing that, which is why he wasn't there on one of our shows. So
That is annoying.
it's very annoying. It is, yes.
Indeed.
Rawr. All right. So any more? We'll take one or two more questions, and then we're going to sign off. And James will read them in his svelte voice.
I will, especially since I've been more or less practicing all day.
Well, that's good. You can practice more. You can read this, James.
Oh boy. If she tries to change the music, just yell, "Hey, wrong knob, sugar tits."
Just say sugar tits.
Sugar tits.
There you go. I like it.
Hey, you don't need to specify what they did wrong. It's an opportunity. Any moment that you yell at them is an opportunity to make them feel self-conscious.
Exactly. And
You don't need to take that away
sugar
from
tits.
them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So look here, sugar tits. All right. No more questions. All right. We're going to sign off now. All right. Cool. So let's go around and do some housekeeping as usual. Robert, where can everyone find you?
Robert Kuzland on YouTube and on Twitter and Instagram. So, and also is the newest member of the Masculine Geek.
Correct. Amos, how about yourself?
Amos Joe on Twitter.
There you go. That's all you're at. What the? Come on, man.
You're not doing a new show?
Nah.
Okay. James, where can everyone find you?
Find me at AstraCreativity.com or on Twitter at BusinessAOC for my business account.
And when he shows up on time, he's here at Masculine Geek.
I am here at Masculine Geek.
Exactly. And last but not least, TJ, how about yourself?
Oh, you guys there?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Oh yeah, you can go to tjmartinell.com.
And I put in the chat and posted it on the live stream your last Mountain Pass podcast, the final episode. So go check that out. And when you're done, go listen to the rest of them because they're really good. There you go. All right.
And then bug TJ to do more in the future.
All right. All right. So, TJ, as usual, please take us out.
All right, guys, keep the wine flowing, keep the fires burning, keep the lead shooting down range. Don't take any wood nickels, and don't drink all the rum.